definition of how we win. What do we need to win? 3 votes.
3 votes.
You got that.
You got that.
And if you have 7 people, then you need
4.
However, I was in Fort Lauderdale. We're rewriting the Plan Unit Development Ordinance, which is where you throw the code out. That code actually has a supermajority requirement. So you need 4 out of the 5. So this goes back to what we said when I embarrassed certain people on the Boca Raton car dealership. Always read the code. My suggestion is learn how to be humble. It's hard when you're in business school, but learn how to be humble. Call the planning department and say, hey, I'm new to your city. Tell me what I need to know. They're more than willing to tell you. They're not going to make it a secret. But don't think you know everything. First paragraph on 131, second sentence. The application, like the planning process, requires you to know what you have, what you want, and then how to go get it. Second paragraph, first line. Applications must be complete and accurate. The planning department will return to you your application if it's not complete and accurate. In fact, many times you'll make a meeting at the front desk. They won't accept it if it's not complete and accurate. Okay, I'm not talking about the substantive content, whether they like your analysis of whether it meets neighborhood compatibility or not, but you can't submit something with blank lines. You can't submit things that's not there. Okay, it's all got to be there. Okay, but that's really your land planner, consultant, land use lawyer. You as the business person probably should not be doing this yourself. You know that expression, you see someone on a car commercial driving a car crazy and they say, don't practice this at home? You should not, for all intents and purposes, as real estate professionals, real estate developers, be doing your own applications. Because it's a team approach. Someone else in your team should be doing that, in my opinion. But again, if you start out small and you want to save money, you can muddle through it. But again, that's why God made land use lawyers, planner consultants, architects. They usually do that because you're trying to balance all those other balls. Remember the handouts I gave you? The 40 people you're balancing? Remember the whole spectrum? You're balancing your pro forma, finance, marketing. You can't be worried about dotting the I's, crossing the T's. That's why you let those people do that. Yes?
Is not the same reason why lawyers don't represent themselves?
Well, there's an expression, he or she who represents himself as a fool for a client. I'm a good lawyer, and I've hired dozens of lawyers to represent me. 1, it's just cost effective. 2, I need an objective opinion. You know? Do you think our President of the United States, in his mind, has ever sent a tweet that he doesn't agree with? No. He agrees with it. He thinks it's golden. That's why he should be talking to other people to get their opinion. My legal opinion on how this thing should be processed, I think is correct. That's why you need an objective opinion on this. You know what I mean? Okay, 132, second to last paragraph. The staff would rather spend time with you at a pre-application stage to get the application right as it can be than have you submit an incomplete application and put them through the process. Always do a pre-app. It's worth the time and effort. It's free intelligence, you know? Go down with your consultants, make an appointment, say, hey, we want to do this. Before we submit, what would you like to see there? Because they're the ones that you want to review it and give you a positive staff report. 135, this is so critical. I put a double star next to it. 135, second full paragraph. Make believe you're thinking about the city of Fort Lauderdale, your application for site plan approval in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and you're thinking about going to the city of Fort Lauderdale staff, city of Fort Lauderdale planning department, city of Fort Lauderdale commission. Have I said the city of Fort Lauderdale enough? second paragraph on 135. But when you prepare that application, you should also be outlining for your own use what you need as far as other permits at the federal, state, and other local levels. Remember I gave you that PowerPoint, federal, state, local? If you want your new project in the city of Fort Lauderdale to have water, you might need to go to the South Florida Water Management District to get a permit. If you want there to be an approval of your plat so you can develop, you're going to have to go to the county commission as well. Okay? If you're going to be dealing with certain environmental things, it could be the county and the state. It's not just get a site plan approved. And it's not the city of Fort Lauderdale's job to give you a list of all the other permits you need. It's your job to figure that out. So if you come back to me and you say, oops, I forgot we needed these other permits, we're now behind schedule 6 months, I'm not going to be happy. But that's why you hire a consultant. And you should be able to say to your land use attorney, right after they tell you how much they want per hour, the next thing out of your mouth is, when can you get me a complete land use investigation report of every step and every process that I need to go through? And I need you to sign off on that. You don't want any surprises. $136 at the bottom, the word notice. We spoke about this. If you're going to develop your property, your neighbors need to know. Within 300 feet of your property, those neighbors are entitled to get probably mail notice. But don't take 300 feet as gospel. Certain codes might say 500 feet. Goes back to read the code. And you have to put those big, ugly yellow signs on your property, public hearing. The goal is get everyone a chance to know about it. Okay? 139 up at the top. We all know about the Watergate break-in. Breaking into the Democratic headquarters. It's not a good thing to do. But the cover-up was worse than the crime. Go through everything we go through. Okay? If we all just say, yeah, I did it, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Okay, we'll slap your wrist, let's move on. But when we lie about it, when we try to hide it and cheat it buried under the rug, it always comes back. So at the top of 139, first 2 lines, if you, as your consultant, is supposed to do the notice and they publish it wrong in the paper, or don't mail notice the full 300 or 500 feet, second line, very end, republish. Don't say the following, let's hope no one finds out about it. Because if you go through another 12 weeks and you get to the public meeting, and I show up and say, guess what? I'm here, I do have constructive notice because I'm here, but guess what? I'm within the 300 feet, I'm actually 297 feet, and they never mailed me notice. Oops. Even though I know about it and I can object, I can force you to start the whole thing over again. That's worse. Okay, don't try to hide your mistakes.
How can you prove a mail notice?
Well, what it is, it's a series of affidavits. So what normally happens, you take a GIS map of your property, you go to the 4 corners, you have your consultant go out 301 feet, and you make a red circle around it. And that picks up every address. And then he or she will mail that and they'll give an affidavit. But if they somehow mess that up, because they didn't realize that your property very well might go to the center line of the road, that's still your property, therefore you should have gone further out. I mean, my point is, stuff happens, don't hide your mistake. It's always going to come back to bite you.
But, okay, so does the post office deliver that with signatures or?
It could be. It depends on what the code says. Sometimes it might say certified mail, return receipt requested, which is what you want, because many times people move away. But the key thing is this. The applicant has to give an affidavit before the public hearing that the notice has been done. They're relying upon their consultant that has the backup. But my point is, if you haven't done the right backup, you don't have the good list, and someone can say, hey, I should have been on that list and I'm not, here's my 300 feet, oops. So I'm saying this thing is so important because it makes you start the process over again. The point is, we're not going to let you do a major rezoning to be adverse to the community by trying to sneak in. We want everyone to know about it. And it also flips good for you. We don't want it to be, hey, why all you developers out in Vegas at the shopping center conference last week and you're all having a good time learning about development. Guess what we did back here in Fort Lauderdale? We just downzoned your property. That 15-story tower you think you're going to get, it's now 6. Well, I didn't know about it. Oh yeah, but we had the secret meeting. You should have been here. So it goes for both sides. Let's be fair about it. Okay?
Can you go too far? Like, for example, can you say, well, if it's 300, let me just go 400 just to make sure?
Well, usually you go a little bit more. You don't want that because you don't need to. But you don't want, this is the thing, if someone's property, a corner of it is in that thing, but the majority of their house isn't, the point is you want to go a little bit further. When I used to run marathons, what I used to hate, I would look at my watch at the end and it would say 26.4. It should have only said 26.2. It's a combination of they laid it out wrong, and I probably didn't cut the corners as good as I could have. I wasn't as efficient. My point is, you don't want to cut it that close, but you don't need to go another 100 feet to let another 25% of the wackos know about it. Okay? Let's go to 145. First little paragraph at the top, second line, 3 words. Be fully prepared. I love football. I think preseason is stupid. You know, if you're not going to go out there and break someone's head because it's preseason, why wait? You know, but we have to get trained. But when it's that first or second weekend in September, game 1, season's here. Practice is over, preseason, we're here to win, okay? Be fully prepared, it's war. Don't shoot from the hip. Whatever you have to do to get ready, sometimes you have one chance to get your 3 votes. Because some codes, if you get denied, you gotta wait a whole other year to reapply. You should take it as serious as football Sunday. 146. Second paragraph, second sentence. 146, second paragraph, second sentence. You need to make sure you visit the room you will be presented in the night before your hearing. I've been doing this for a long time throughout the United States. I never speak before elected officials without going to check the room out first. I gotta get comfortable. Now, I've done work before in every county building there is, up and down every city building, beautiful city halls with Gothic statues and oil paintings and tapestry and wood panels. I've also been in the town of Hillsborough, North Carolina, outside of Chapel Hill, in the town barn. They didn't have a city hall, they had a town barn. And they laid those church tables out with folding chairs. So, and the ground was basically hard dirt type thing, was the town hall. That's what they meant. My point is, you got to check out the environment. You got to make this assumption. You got to make sure that your RJ of the world, who's supposed to help you with IT, somehow got caught in the graduation parking traffic. It's not there. You better bring backup. You better bring a thumb drive. Now, what a lot of cities do, if you're going to present on a Tuesday, they say this to you: Friday, 5 o'clock, whatever presentation stuff you have, we need it because we put on a unified system. We don't let you interject. Some cities say it's your presentation, do what you want. I always bring a thumb drive, and what I do, because I'm old school, I bring presentation boards. Remember I showed you the presentation boards? What do you do if it's game time and whatever the reason the system's down? They're not going to start over. They're there to do business. Your item's been noticed. There's no constitutional right for you to have a PowerPoint. Believe me, your founding forefathers were not thinking about your PowerPoint presentation when they signed the Constitution. Okay? So you can't say, you know, you might ask for a continuance, but you've got to be ready with backup presentation boards.
That's basically the elevation.
Yeah, yeah.
The same thing that you're gonna present in.
Yeah, I put it on boards and I have it brought in, you never know what's gonna happen. Or what happens if, things happen, you just, you wanna be ready at all times. 154. Second paragraph. 4 lines up from the bottom. 154, second paragraph, 4 lines up from the bottom. It is difficult to overstate the importance of having supporters physically there for you. Peter, would you come out and support our project? We know that you like our project. Yeah, I'd like to be there to support you, but guess what? I do laundry Tuesday night and I watch reruns of Oprah. Can't make it. Peter, they're gonna put a Walmart in your backyard. They're gonna do it Tuesday night. I look at my daughter, I say, honey, your brother's gonna walk you down the aisle, I'm a little busy Tuesday night. I gotta go fight that Walmart. It's real hard to get people to come out and support your project. Not impossible, but real hard. But if people think you're gonna hurt their land values, they will show up in buses with red shirts with the line through it. Okay? So, but again, when I got my behavioral project approved, by working with the community, there were no one objected. We dealt with that. That's your job, get to yes. So the whole second book of what we're gonna do, if you really want the overview now and you don't believe in buying books and you like to wing it and you're a big picture kind of person, the whole thing about this is how do you get the 3 votes? It's relationships. And if you work with your neighbors, it's not that vital. Now, there could be. Some people will always be against medical marijuana distribution plants. Some people will be always against a Walmart, because it has to go next to someone. But the point is, it's very difficult to get supporters to show it.
Right?
What's that?
You can pay the supporters.
Yeah. But again, you want real people who have stature in the community. Okay? I've seen projects where you look at the wall of fame of all those people. I've seen those people show up at public meetings, not because they were paid, but because a phone call was made, we need your support. You want the right people who are movers and shakers to say this is good for our community. 155. Second full paragraph. It is often useful to include a summary of important facts. And then skip down to line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The idea is to put a single sheet of paper with the most important information that you need into the hands of each board member. I love my wife, however. The hot water heater was having some problems 2 days ago. And she had one set of plumbers come out, one electrician, the next day a different set. And it's finally fixed. I asked her the question, is it fixed? What I'm looking for is the yes or no. I don't get the yes or no. She has to validate her existence of what she did all day long, step by step by step. And all I'm thinking about, can I take a shower or not? And if I try to be rude about it, then she starts all over again, because she has. Don't be like my wife. The mayor of Fort Lauderdale is a nice man, but he's a busy man. He's running a law practice. He's running a city. There's many things on that agenda. He's not going to know the basic things of your project, the who, what, why, when, where. I always like to put I assume elected officials and judges might read a single piece of paper. That's it. I like to do like a sheet. Comp plan, X. Zoning, X. This project is about X. The neighbor's concerns are Y. So I can give it to them so they have it with basics. Okay? You need to help elected officials support you. They're not going to read the staff report. And when you do your 20-minute presentation, they're going to get on the phone, they're going to do text, they're going to go to the bathroom. They're not going to. You got to dummy this stuff down. Okay? If you can't put it on a single sheet of paper, then you haven't done your job as a business person. Well, let me flip over to show you the other extreme on page 156. Paragraph 3, last 4 words of that paragraph. Create an adequate record. This is the other extreme from the single sheet of paper. You need to give the Humpty Dumpty people on the dais the single sheet of paper so they understand what's going on. But at the same time, you might end up in a courtroom. You've got to create a record to make sure everything that you need to win on appeal is in that record. An example in the book that they talk about, I'm not going to go through it, but if you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. You're going to pay a lot of money to a traffic engineer. You need to make sure that your traffic engineer says in the record, we have reviewed all of the major road networks to the north, south, east, west of this project. Exhibit 1 of our report sets forth the traffic flow. Based on our professional review and our preparation of Exhibit 1 to our traffic report, we professionally believe this applicant meets all levels of service standards for the project, as set forth in our traffic report in Exhibit 1. Okay? If a judge later is reviewing the application, okay, and you had that in the record, the judge can then say, well, gee, professional engineer, Exhibit 1, they said it's all good, they've done the analysis, they identified the roads. Okay, I can follow that. As opposed to, yeah, I'm the traffic engineer, we did our job, it's all good. How's the lawyer going to look at that? So my point is, everything's that balance between, here's a single sheet of paper, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, elected officials. But by the way, can I throw all this stuff in the record? Because you may not support me tonight. And I might have to sue you. And when I sue you, I got to make sure I got all that stuff in the record. I don't expect you to create the record. That's what your land use attorney has to do. But you need to be thinking in terms of, this is not checkers. People who play checkers don't get 6-figure salaries. People who play chess do. You're going to go into real estate development. You have to assume you're not going to win at the elected official level. You might have to win in a courtroom. Therefore, when you get to the courtroom, make sure you have everything you need. You've got to be thinking 2-3 steps ahead at all times. You always have to be having a plan B, a plan C. And if I ever got to a point that I could afford a very, very big yacht because somehow I just hit the market right, I would probably name my yacht Exit Strategy. Because at the end of the day, every real estate deal, the only purpose is to get out of the deal. You're not going to make your money until you get out of the deal. Cash flow that you get every quarter is nice. What you really want are capital gains. Can I get an amen on that? Amen. Yes?
So, the question that I have is, I thought that you would need the approval of the city for the go-ahead of your project. How can you sue them for not approving your project?
Well, you can sue them if they don't treat you fairly and they're arbitrary and capricious. They violate my equal protection rights, my due process rights. We saw In the PowerPoint that I showed you, the two extremes of Loretto, Lucas, today we're going to talk about the Coons case, and there's other cases of maybe they've gone too far and they've taken it. This is the situation. If I'm allowed to build a 12-story tower as of right, okay, and the neighbors come out and they scream, we don't want a 12-story tower there, we want to keep it a park for us. And I can show that there's a 12-story tower everywhere around this. But then all of a sudden, the elected officials cave in under neighborhood pressure, and they say, okay, we closed the public meeting, Mr. Developer, you've had your chance, the neighbors have spoken. Okay, let's have a discussion. I'm gonna vote to deny the project because it's not compatible with the neighborhood. Okay? There's a 12-story building to the left, the right, the center, the back, the front. There's 12-story buildings all around me. I want to do a 12-story building. The neighbors find it's not, I mean, the elected officials find it's not compatible. Not because it's not compatible, but because 500 people from Century Village showed up on the bus with the big line through it and say they don't want the project. You might have to go to court to say that that was an arbitrary, capricious decision.
What's the timeline for that?
You better get your court lawsuit filed in 31 days. Okay? But then it takes a year to figure it out. And many times, environmental groups know they're going to lose, but they can try to slow you down. But my point is this. You have rights as a property owner. Okay? I'm here to help protect your rights to your property, your Fifth Amendment rights. Other people talk about human rights, civil rights, social rights, and there's other parts of this university that can help deal with those. I don't care about that. You have property rights, and government is willing to trample right all over those. Now, when we go back to third world countries, we go back to the King of England 250 years ago, they can do what they want. They would just take your property. We had an American Revolution to protect property rights. And if government's going to mess with you, you have the right to push back, and that's what this afternoon's discussion is going to be.
Professor?
Yes?
Most of the time when you try to acquire a good team to go to these meetings and try to get the project approved and all that stuff.
You're going to get your good team from the very start.
I understand. My question was, you have a whole different range that you need to have, from architect lawyers to landscape lawyers. From all that, you're going to have sometimes weak links that are not as strong as the compared. If you had to choose between all the team members, that the strongest one that's going to present, would it be engineer, architect? Or
No. In Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, the rule of thumb is your land use lawyer presents. When I do stuff in Palm Beach County, historically it's been more the site planner.
Okay.
Different areas
require different.
Well, it's not what they require. You as an applicant have the right to have your lawyer speak. But the point of it is, it would be the wrong signal if your lawyer gets up there. But look, sometimes this is how I have to start. Mayor, Vice Mayor, hi, I'm Peter Henn, I'm the developer. I'm here today with my consultant lawyers, my traffic engineers. And by the way, just so you don't miss the point, the court stenographer that's taking notes, I'm paying for that. Can I continue? That's me basically saying, read between the lines, if you mess with me, I'm having a transcript already prepared. The lawyer, and what I have done is I say, this is my land use lawyer,
Correct.
this is my litigation lawyer, and I highlight the word litigation, and I said, this is my court stenographer. So before we get there, I'm saying, don't listen to those 500 old people in Century Village with the red t-shirts. You do that, we're going to sue you, and we're going to win. So it's war. But if you think you got your 3 votes, then I could say, well, you come in happy face. But you got to be prepared. You just don't know. It depends upon what the project is. But you got to be preparing. Look, football season, you don't get your starting quarterback the day before opening game. You do the draft in April, then you go to summer training, camp and you got ready for the game.
Yeah, but then becomes Johnny Manziel, and then what do you do?
I would never pick that person in the first place. Cleveland is not people's, I'm not gonna go into Cleveland. $159. This is the most important thing to make clear. 159, first full paragraph, it starts with "there's no magic," but look at the last 3 lines of that paragraph. Finally, you end with a short representation that the project is ready in full compliance with all federal, state, and local rules, and in some measures is far better than what the law requires. If you remember when I did the Bahia presentation, I went first as the developer's representative. Then I had my land use lawyer talk about some of the benefits. I'm sorry, stop. I had my land planner, site planner, landscape architect talk about some of the benefits of the project. But I concluded with my land use lawyer going through the dry stuff that basically said the following: we have met every rule that we need to meet. After you, if you don't approve this, that's why we're here ready to litigate, and we have the court stenographer. Not that we had to say that, but by you saying I have met every federal, state, local rule, it's time for you to approve this. It's that balance between letting them know it's safe to go in the water, but quite frankly, if they don't approve it, you're ready to litigate. Okay, because that's what this is about. Now look, it's very simple. This is a review going back to day 1. If the community doesn't like 15-story towers on the beach of Fort Lauderdale, and I want to do a 15-story tower, then what the city of Fort Lauderdale can do is they can do a study, they can have community outreach meetings, they can properly notice it, and they can change the zoning code and downzone the entire Fort Lauderdale beach from 15 stories to 12 stories. And guess what? They did that. Remember the Bahia project I had? There was a 15-story hotel. That was built when the code allowed 15 stories. And then the government said, we really don't like that. That's too much. Let's give everyone a haircut. Take it down to 12. Okay? And going back to the balance of Penn Central, I'm probably not going to win in a courtroom if I say, Your Honor, I once had the right to do 15, now I can only do 12. Your Honor's going to say, get out of my courtroom. Because you have to realize something. Marriage doesn't need to be forever. It should be, but it doesn't need to be. A zoning designation is not forever. It can go up and it can go down. And you can't rely upon it never changing. Okay? Or they may never change what your zoning map says, but remember there's also the zoning code? Remember how I said for the Boca Raton we can add a couple of things to make it better? They can also change the text to make it worse. You know, so you have to realize you got to always be watching what's. When I was active with Blackstone and I had 4 or 5 different major assets going on, I got every agenda from the County Commission of Broward and the City of Fort Lauderdale. And I looked at every agenda because I don't know if they're trying to sneak something on. You know, you got to stay proactive with your asset because government can change it on you. 161. Don't be cheap. Spend the $7,000. Have a dress rehearsal. If you're going to try to get your 3 votes, and this is the first time your traffic engineer's meeting your architect, meeting your land use lawyer, that's not good. You got to go through a dress rehearsal. Just like an orchestra, you're not going to pay $250 to go hear the New York Philharmonic if those guys have a practice. You know? You spend the money, go through it, and make sure people stay on script. This is the problem with most people. You don't need to write this down. Most people think they're smarter than they are. They're not. Okay? I've met very few people, I don't know if they still make them. They used to make the 3 different types of wattage in a light bulb, in the one bulb. 60, 100, 120. Most of us are 100. We know a lot of people that are 60. But I'll be honest with you, there aren't that many 120. And when you see it, wow, that person's smart. Now the thing about this, I could probably be as good as free flows as Michael Jordan if I'm willing to put the effort in year after year, day after day, and just shoot 10,000 a day. I might finally get it. But intelligence, you're probably not going to be able to go from 100 to 120 watt bulb with IQ. You either have it or you don't. Most people don't think that. Most people think they're 150 IQ. Don't let your traffic engineer give an opinion on the site plan, and don't let your site plan give an opinion on the traffic. Stay on script. Okay? Because most people want to act like, oh, did I do good? No, keep your mouth shut. You are here to say the following, X. I'm serious. I have so many civil engineers that want to show how smart they are to solve a problem. No, no, no. I don't want to solve that problem. It's going to cost me $4 million. So the presentation is, we cannot do what you want to do, elected officials. We can do A and B, but not A, B, C, and D. If your engineer says, oh, but I can do B, C, D, I can do it all. No, because I'm not paying for it. But you've got to practice. Okay, this is serious stuff. You got one chance to get that vote. You don't want to be calling the owner saying we didn't get the votes. And some of the happiest times in my career was when I am allowed to reach the number 2 in all of Blackstone, real estate. And they knew I had the public meeting, and at that level, we're not nice to each other, it's just business. And I would just do the email, it's done, we got it. And the response back would be, great. Not nice job, not a lot of flowery, just, I got it, it's done. You know, that's usually we send about 11 o'clock at night, no one turns their cell phones off or Blackberries off at the time. But the point of it is, you don't want to be sending the email, we didn't get it. Okay? Because your boss may not know what you do day in, day out trying to move the peanut down the football field with your project, but as something as big as your approvals, did you get the commitment letter for your financing? Did you secure that big lease for the big tenant? Those are the big milestones. And you want to be able to always get to yes. But if you don't practice, and 165, just so your book has this highlighted, first full paragraph, lines 2 and 3. Consultants, make sure they don't stray from their field of expertise. And you look at the bottom of 165, the book's a little bit dated. 165, last 4 lines. Spend the $5 grand for the afternoon, maybe it's $7,500. Get your team to practice. Now, if you look at the syllabus says your PowerPoint presentation will be 10 minutes, not 11 minutes. Unfortunately, I got to cut them down because there's more people than I thought. It's malpractice for me as a lawyer to not get everything I need before the elected officials into the record because I didn't practice. And I can tell you something, none of you are that good to do a PowerPoint presentation and come in at the exact time allotment without first practicing. You gotta practice. You gotta look in the mirror. Okay? And I'll say this to you. If it sounds like you're speaking slow to you, it's probably the right speed for the audience. Because your brain knows what you're going to say before it comes out of your mouth. But if it sounds really fast to you that you're talking really fast, then it's really fast for them. Slow it down. And I tell this to every student that I ever teach. You tell people what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and when you're done telling them, you tell them what you just told them. Elected officials need it 3 times. Okay? Teenagers need it 10 times, you know? Making the presentation, chapter 14. $170, the carryover paragraph. 5 up from the bottom. It is almost always better to stick to the positive. Okay? I think I told you the story. I'm trying to get the BHMR project approved. It's a linear process. It's about $400 million worth of stuff at risk. There was an elected official that didn't want me to succeed. She actually didn't care whether I succeeded or not, but she wanted to look like she was trying to fight the developer because that's how she gets reelected. And she asked me in the early stages of trying to get my approvals, do I have my loan commitment secured yet?
Yeah, you told us about that.
Yeah, and I couldn't say, you dumb blank, 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 blank. Don't you understand anything? It's a linear process. That comes later on. I had to say, I explained, and when she said, you don't have it, I said, you're correct, we don't. Nor would any developer at this point, Madam Mayor. What I wanted to say would have made the tweets from last week flying around look like kindergarten. That would not have been good. Because then the people who want to vote for me say, I can't believe you just said that. You have to just, as the book's going to say, you show no emotion. You got to play poker. You got to just keep your cool. When they come out of the woodworks and they accuse me of basically being a child molester, you know, or they say things that are just not true, trying to attack my integrity, trying to think that's why they should say no to the 12-story building, because he's a bad person. He's still pot in high school. You gotta keep your cool. You, unless it's your money, you're gonna work for someone else. They're not paying for you to try to get the last word. They're paying for you to get the 3 votes. And I think they say this on page 173, the 3rd full paragraph that starts with during the hearing. But look at the last 3 lines. Never, never, and I say never, I mean it, show your emotion until the final decision is voted on, and probably not even then. Let me tell you what you don't do at a public meeting. At a public meeting, it's not all about you. There's multiple things on the agenda. And if you're the 2nd or 5th item, don't sit in the audience while the other ones are doing theirs, talking to your consultants. If you're going to sit in the audience because you want to be seen and have your space, be professional. If you need to speak to your consultants, go outside the room. Because they're up higher than you, they're looking down. They know who you are. And if you're just chatting over here and things are going on, distraction. Everything you do is how do I get the 3 votes? Okay. 175, first full paragraph, 3 lines up from the bottom. 175, first full paragraph, 3 lines up from the bottom. The record will always be the record. It cannot be more, it cannot be less. When you speak to the record, think of yourself speaking to the judge. Remember I had that 20-minute PowerPoint BHMR I shared with you? I went through it. That was my presentation. I had a lot more stuff I put in to the record. Don't be cheap. Everything you need to win, you got to officially submit. Every study, every report, every analysis. Because when you're in a courtroom, it's all you might have later on. $181. down at the bottom, handling the unexpected. The unexpected happens more often than you would expect. Let me tell you something. Engineers design for something called the 100-year storm event. That's where we say every 100 years it's pretty bad, which means it can happen, well, in theory it can happen once every 100 years, has a 1% happen every year. The problem is, the 100-year storm event now happens every 20 years. And Houston, they had the 500-year storm event not long ago. New Orleans, the 500-year biblical storm, you know what I mean? Stuff can happen, and it's going to happen at the public meeting. Okay? (183), I want to make sure you see these words. I don't want to turn you to a lawyer, but you need to understand these words. 183, first full paragraph, line 2. Finding of facts, findings of law. This is what they do. I'm sorry, 183, I apologize. 183, first full paragraph, line 2. 183, first full paragraph, line 2. Finding of facts, findings of law. If you have a good land use lawyer, this is how he or she is going to think. The law is what the law is. What law is applicable. Then there's facts of your case. You have to show that your facts meet the law. And even though you don't think you're going to lose, and you think you got your 3 votes, you might know the other side's going to sue you no matter what. So you're going to take your 3 votes, but you want to make sure the record doesn't say, Peter, we like him, wrote a lot of campaign checks, good Republican, we're going to vote for his project. Yeah, good guy. Okay? You want to make sure in that record, not I'm a good guy, but here's the law, the standards, okay? And then here's the facts of your application that you met that. And you might say, why do I go through that hassle? I got my 3 votes. Yeah, but the other side has the right to sue. And it goes up on appeal. And they're going to say, hey, here's the law. They never made any findings of facts that they met the law. It was a political thing. They rammed it through. It's incompatible. If the city of Fort Lauderdale has a requirement, not just B1, B2, how high, but it has another thing that says your project must be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, you want in the record a professional AICP planner or planning staff to make a finding of fact that your project is compatible. If it's silent on that, then the judge might side with the neighbors. Okay? So what are the things you need to get through, and then did you get through, and make sure it's that clear.
And that's just the checklist, right?
It's like a checklist. It could be very well be. And if you remember what I had at the end of my PowerPoint, I listed the criteria. I had a little check next to it, and I had my lawyer read into the record, we met this, we met this, we met this, and the box of paper I submitted had all of the backup to support that. As opposed to showing up arrogantly, hey guys, it's me. Remember those checks I gave you for my wife, my kid, my mistress? You got all the money? Things are good, right? We're good tonight? You don't want to get that type of vote in 3 seconds because you're the good guy. You want to make sure you win it on the merits. Because the other side has the right to sue just like you have the right to sue. Now let me tell you something. At the bottom of 187, the last word on 187 going to 188, ex post facto evidence. Evidence received outside the record that becomes, intended or not, part of the record and potentially influences the decision maker. it is a violation of constitutional law in that it prevents other parties to a proceeding from being able to confront and rebut the evidence. What does all that mean? In Florida, the elected officials are supposed to make their decision on what's presented at the public meeting. Okay? And what they'll do at the start of the meeting, the mayor will say, does anyone have any disclosures to make? And what that really says is the following. I visited the property on my own. That's an observation that's being made outside the record. And I spoke to Peter Henn and his land use lawyers, and I spoke to 10 neighbors outside. You're at least supposed to put it on the record. Okay? But the point also is, if you don't do a good job at the public meeting, and you don't prove everything, and let's assume you know there's no traffic issue. We grade traffic the way I grade you. A, B, C, D, and F. F's not good. A's good. And let's assume right now the level of service is C, which is acceptable, and my project keeps it at C. But if I don't put that into the record, and the other side said there's too much traffic, and I still win, but then they sue, and then I can't later at the court bring in a traffic study because it's outside the record. So what I'm trying to make the point to you, you as a real estate developer need your 3 votes or 4 votes. You may get them, you may not, and if you get them, you might get sued. The best thing you can do is get the best team, prepare, rehearse, keep everyone on script, okay? I don't know if you watch little kids play soccer. They're really cute in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. They're like bumblebees. They don't stay in their line or position. They're all over the place. Wherever the ball is, they are. But as you mature to do good in soccer, stay in your position, go down and back like this. Don't just be bumblebees. Okay? This is serious stuff. 189, just so your book has it highlighted. 3rd full paragraph starts with do not think. But the last line, political power when election time comes. You like hamburgers with ketchup. You don't like hamburgers with mustard. They gave you the mustard. You try to scrape it off. You can't get the taste off. It's still on the bun. The burger's still on the bun. Politics is like mustard. Bad taste. You can't get it out. Don't be naive. This is a political thing. I've said before, this class should be renamed Land Use, Regulations, and Politics of Real Estate Development. But look at the bottom of 189. You will do that by taking the high road every chance you get, no matter how much it hurts. Yes, Commissioner, you're correct. We don't yet have our final commitment from a lender. As I'm sure you know, that normally comes later on. And at that point, given who we are, we will have that. But Commissioner, today we don't. But I think we can move forward with what we have. I hate being nice to people who don't deserve to be nice to. I can't say what I want to say. But you have to. It's a game, it's a charade. There needs to be a filter between your mouth. This is not, let's tweet how you feel. (192), second paragraph. There's only 3 things you can be. 192, second paragraph, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Line 5 is what you want. It's approval. Line 6 is approval with conditions. And then there's a denial. Mathematically, every public meeting from a mathematical scientific point of view will result in either an approval, a denial, or approval with conditions. The only other technical thing you need to know about this, it's called a deferral. If you don't think you're doing good, you say, Mayor, a lot of good information was brought up tonight by my neighbors. Would it be okay if we take a deferral or table this item? Let me work with them for the next 3 months and come back to you. It's better to do that than run into the fire. Okay? 193, second paragraph. Lines 5, 6, 7, 8. Winning on appeal is difficult because courts generally give great deference to local administrative decision makers. A local board or commission has to do something really, really stupid if they're going to get reversed. Remember I said House wins? That's why I said settle. Look at the bottom of 193, second to last paragraph. Highlight this. In litigation, generally, most cases are settled. 193, second to last paragraph. It starts with, in litigation, generally, most cases are settled.
90%.
It's greater than that now. Seriously. Look, the most natural thing is this. That cop pulled me over, I got a speeding ticket. I'm going to take this case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court to get things vindicated. No, you're not. Settle. Make money. Time value of money. Internal rate of return. Start pouring concrete. Start getting wire transfers. Okay? 194. First full paragraph. The problem with litigation is not that it is only expensive, it's also unpredictable. There's two kinds of people in the world when you're a lawyer. There are certain people that if they need a lawyer, they have to pay for the lawyer out of the same checkbook that they buy groceries or Publix with. I don't want those kind of people for clients. Okay? I want people for clients who have the corporate book, who will spend every penny that they need to win. And they factor that into the cost of things. But even those people don't want to waste money, because sooner or later they want to develop. They don't want to miss the cycle. You know? Right now the economy's strong. Okay? Right now people are getting jobs. People are coming out of the woodworks who never worked for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years saying, I'll go back to work. Okay, that means housing, apartments, condominiums, apartments, commercial. This is the time to be building, developing, not the time to be litigated. Okay? So even if you're getting screwed and you think you're entitled to 500 units, take the 350, move on maybe. Okay? But at the same time, the goal, if we were going to get the group tattoo, should not be get 3 votes. The goal should be the last paragraph on 195. The mantra. When I do hot yoga, we're supposed to have a mantra. We're supposed to hum. Second, third line. Unanimous approval with no opposition. Shoot for 5 votes with no neighbors complaining. That's what you should always be trying to get to. Because this is the thing. If you set up your strategy from the start, I'm only going to skate by with 3 votes, you don't know what's going to happen. What do you have to do to try to get the 5? What do you have to do to try to get everyone else to stay home to watch reruns of Oprah and do laundry and not fight you? That's how you should be setting this up. Because then, if it doesn't work out, you can take a 4-1 or a 3-2 and still win. But if you only set your approach on a 3-2 from the start, you got to be perfect at it. Nothing's perfect. Okay, I want to take a break now before they close that cafeteria, and then we will come back at 2 minutes after 2 That gives you plenty of time to go to the bathroom, get to the cafeteria. At 2 minutes after 2, we will start up. Finish the book, go through some PowerPoints, and then decide what we're going to do.
Because you went drove all the way over there. We had all you can eat sushi.
Yeah.
He's like, we won't do it. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, right. We didn't even sit down.
What they used to do, infrastructure based on cheapest. Now what they do, the retail ground level is the most valuable. Levels 2 and 3 is now where you put your infrastructure, then your tower. Yeah.
The thing is, when you went, they actually have a map thing, show you 10, 20, 30 years.
Well, that's one theory that may have happened. I mean, that's projection. They don't know. I mean, look, you got a bunch of liberal people, environmentalists, planning under that framework. It may not happen, but if we plan under that framework, it's a good thing. And if it doesn't happen, we're still better. But they can't be telling you absolutely that's going to happen.
I don't want to touch your
Oh yeah, but they act like that. They don't know. Well, they might be training back, they might be resilient. Well, the thing about it is, every jurisdiction does things differently. On whether it's home rule in states, Massachusetts, shows how many constitutions do we have? 51. Every state is different. But hey, if you can make money between now and the next 30 years, and you get your return, do you really care then? I don't think it's going to happen to that extreme. Everyone says that, but I mean, look, I live on the ocean, and they're talking about flooding. So the way they project it, I'll be going down before we flood out.
About 5 inches since the water is actually.
Well, is that because of poor construction stabilization, or is that because of sea level rise?
Sea level rise, not because it actually construction was
Puedes
not.
saber, pero tampoco si te rebajas es sentido y te
They
rebajas.
have done many, they created the water as well.
Yeah.
But the seawater is rising, so that's the thing that's kind of scaring me right now.
Well, you gotta just risk everything. I live on the ocean, and every hurricane season, my house might be gone. You know. But if you can make money out there, I would still.
I love seafood.
She goes to
Yeah.
There's been more money invested in seafood than anywhere else in Boston.
Yeah.
Even the financial district.
And I love Boston.
I don't like Boston Red Sox. But
No, me neither.
We good?
What were you saying?
What? I said your emotion is in your face, just like me. I'm just saying, that's why I can't be a good lawyer. My dad was good at that. He would just come and like, fucking my mom come outside, act like, hey, hi, I'm like, how do you, like, you to a point of divorce? He would come outside and talk, hey, and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, just no feelings. I can't do that.
I used to do that.
I can't do that. Because I'm the same way, that's why I know. That's what I was like, I can tell there's something wrong with you. The emotion part, it's on your face. So I take it the meeting didn't go that well? that you had planned? Correct?
So it didn't go that well. It went better than I thought.
But you wanted more. We have
In resume? Yeah, exactly. Better than I thought. Not the outcome.
But how long are you guys so far away from?
2 months and 2 weeks. 2 months and a week. I haven't seen him like in a month.
Is she doing? Not that you know.
I asked him. But doesn't guarantee.
You don't see the speedometer there, bro. He doesn't put kilometers on it. It doesn't put kilometers. It doesn't say, oh, you've been driving or not, you know? It doesn't put any numbers on it, that's the problem. You don't know.
It's exhausting.
Yes.
It's draining.
But, you know, in a year or two, you're going to laugh at today, and it might have been like the best thing that ever happened. And it's really hard to realize that now, because this is thinking, not this. You know, the difference between these two is what separates the men from the boys, I think. If you can make decisions on logic instead of emotions, you'd be in the top 5% of the population. Most humans judge everything, make decisions on emotions, their feelings, so what they think is right, not the actual logical perspectives. I knew her for about 10, 12 years, but we never, nothing between me. So she came down one time when, she was advising me. So she came to Florida, she was in California. And I decided, I know her for 12 years, nothing. So we connected, took a couple of nights there, and then she got so involved. I actually liked her. She came back the week after. And I said, exactly, you know? So then she came back and we put together for another week and everything was good. And we were talking about, like, I'm serious. She's studying her PhD in California. I'm studying here. I got her for a second, like, emotionally, right? I was like, dude, I'm good looking, she's great, she's good. Everything was like good. So I sat back and I started thinking logically for myself. I said, okay, imagine if you were married. Where are you gonna live? I don't know. I don't know if I want to stay in the US, go back to Monaco, go to Dubai. I have no idea. I'm not sure. You know, I don't work. Really. I do investments in real estate. It's not work. You know, I'm tired. I cannot go if I don't want to. You know, it's not work. So I started thinking what's good about me. I noticed that I'm not ready for that. Although the opportunity is there, logically, personally, without putting her in this situation, it's not for me right now. I need to set myself up, know if I'm living in Brooklyn, know if I'm living in Boynton Beach, create a house, create a business, I go to work every day, because I can't stay home every day. You know what I'm saying? With the wife, get divorced in 1 year. Yeah. You know, you gotta find something to do, even if it's fake or some kind of bullshit, I gotta create that. Right? So when I looked at it, the end logically, it didn't make sense. So we had a conversation 2 days ago, and we cut it. And I told her, I said, exactly what I'm telling you. So for that, maybe that will help them.
Sliders, I get more coffee.
At the time, I probably.
Are they not selling coffee right now?
No, they are. No, but I'm saying that I drink more coffee.
Oh, yeah, I know, me too.
At any other day.
Do I have a, can I afford one? Do I have a business? Can I afford one? Do that for yourself logically, and then if you can say yes to all of them, then you gotta do what you gotta do, go after it. And if logically you can't, right now, there's no. I don't know. I'm just trying to help. I'm just saying that's, for me, it happened like not too long ago. He was in Brooklyn. He was across the street from me. I was in but and I was trying to make it work. Trying to do that.
No? Well, when you started,
I don't have finance problems.
Thursdays?
But I really don't know what I want to do. Where would I want to live? Yes, all that stuff. Like I didn't. From me. Okay, I have these options. Now what? So logically,
During the week is hard.
emotionally, I didn't like it. I was like here for 2 days. I stayed home.
What happened? Oh, okay. Listen,
Where were you?
at my age,
like
and if I look back, there was always plenty of those, and you can't get emotionally involved. I told my son, he's freaking 24, he's 6'4", he's good looking like you guys. Don't worry around the corner, don't get so involved. Please.
In the summer, yeah.
No, he's with her. You want to show
Well, the
your
last
picture?
time we
Show your
stepped
picture?
foot in class is June 30th. Are you in the online
Oh,
class?
you weren't sitting in last week.
So June 30th is your last
There's
day.
always another one.
It starts back.
It's like
all
fishing.
semesters in August.
There's nothing that you have
I'm
to
not
have.
gonna be here, so I don't
Unless
know
it's the
exact
perfect
date, but last year
scenario.
was like August 1st,
Yeah.
something like that. So you'll
Women are like
you'll get a month and a half off. You'll get a month and a half off in the summer and a month and a half off in the winter.
Let me look at this Instagram.
Because this year we were done December 7th.
No,
Was the
no,
last day of the winter.
yeah, Captain Woody.
Fall semester.
No, no, put
We
him
didn't
on.
start back up until like January.
There's his girlfriend. He says, he goes, Dad, I might have
Not,
one.
it ends
Hold on, there's a better one.
first week
That's
of August. I mean,
my son's, he's the paddleboard company
we'll
marketing
be done
guy.
here, like I said, June
And he's
30th.
mid social
So you'll have that
media.
whole month to go come to class, go work these classes.
I'm trying to find. Oh, I don't know how
After
to.
this summer semester, after the online
Hold
class.
on, it's right here, he doesn't have that many, come on.
You're in a newsfeed. You're like face.
Dunzo. School.
Just put one of the pictures. Is that his?
No, no. Oh, then what do you do?
Just put one of the
Go ahead. Hold on. What is your
Right here, right here. I don't know his company.
What is the company? Okay, press that. And then it's come down, right, you look like this. So, vacation. Yeah, I'm trying.
Oh, here she is.
We'll open this up in about a half an hour.
They're all pulled up right here. I mean, it exit out. It's just easier than when it pops up.
You see how many views that thing got? That was like the top views for the whole month.
Or keep it like that.
This is sweet. I like these.
I'm just thinking if you now,
My wife
like, you
hated
have this screen open, you double click on this one.
My wife hated this.
Add to one.
You can't fight with that.
I'm not sure, but I'll tell you what I'd like to do. We want to order for the company.
What's your thing?
Captain Woody. But I only have a bunch of pictures there, that's all I got. I don't do it every day. Well, so now I get to follow you, dude?
I would like to talk.
You want to follow my son, because he's the one who puts the good content.
Get it.
Is that you?
No, that is not me.
Then the line to go in here.
That's what it is. You gotta look at mine.
And no, we're.
Where does it come up as? Where do I come up as? There's a picture of me in something.
Yeah.
Captain, what do you
Against those
need?
cards?
Oh,
Ah, yeah.
I sent these to you, bro.
yeah, I just put a bunch of pictures of my son and I in.
Then both will come down.
Dude, do I catch some friggin' fish in the news fish and everything?
And then,
It was a big tarpon though, I watched you.
and also both will come down.
Hey, this is my niece. She goes out with Giancarlo from the Yankees. Yeah. She's sweet.
No,
She needs somebody to take care of this guy.
I won't even know that. That's the document.
Money doesn't do anything for him.
You're in your spot.
No, no. That's my handsome
I
redfish.
really like this.
handsome redfish picture. Some idiot goes, "You gotta wear camo to catch those," because my son. This was for Guy Harvey. You see that camo? My son was doing photos for Guy Harvey, and I actually caught a big one.
Live Galleria,
You got to use it.
This
Check
is
that
what it looks like.
towel fish. How cool is that? That's my buddy that owns the big boat.
Went through, didn't get bounced back to the downtown 2020.
oh, that's cool.
How much?
In 11, he sent his question.
See that?
0 posts, 111
Who's
followers.
that?
I think I might have had it before.
That means,
And
did you
he's a
stalk
private
him?
account, 0 posts.
Did you stalk him?
I guess.
That's when I took my son for some fish, first fishing too.
And then
Hey, it's good, yeah.
this, this last, which was the first one I sent you, Orange County National Park.
Yeah, it is. Get him right now.
Keep the voice down, Brad.
And you look at the thing like, all right, 50 minutes, I got it.
I think the easiest way to go about it, honestly, instead of having them all open here, it's not like you can just switch from one to the other. Just click on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which one's not?
If I have trouble, you come up and say,
I got you.
thank you.
Alright, we're all here. Even the promised one, I'm in this one.
Yeah, the promise will not go as well.
Every time, man. 2 times. They spit in other classes and other stuff. Man, you never sent me that. I'm like, Carlos, it's not you, bro.
You graduate too?
Yeah.
You welcome her? Here, right? What do you watch?
I don't know.
I don't know, that's what I'm Hey, RJ, where are we walking?
Basketball.
Basketball arena?
Yeah, downtown. The big basketball ring, like where the flight at.
Okay.
The gym.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to, I mean, you can't really tell, but there's a whole basketball arena within that building.
Yeah, second floor though. The indoor?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in second floor?
I mean, I think you get to the stadium seating through the second floor, but we'll be on the court, I'm assuming. I've never seen a graduation here, but assuming we'll have the chairs laid out on the court, and all the people will be up in the stands on the second floor. I forgot, I gotta read the email again, but it starts at 2:30, and they generally want them here an hour early.
You graduated this term?
They just opened up, have like the pool tables and everything across from the shore.
We have our graduation on Friday.
Last weekend, yeah.
Exactly. And then they go into play stuff above it.
Can we change the room?
It's called Terrace.
They only graduate
Motorcycle company.
as well.
Decor inside.
And they only have one graduation in the summer.
They usually have like live bands and stuff.
So you walk because you want to walk, but you're not technically.
So if you basically, I can shake you down for
To be honest, I
cash.
haven't really been out.
When grandparents want to see you walk, they don't want you to not be graduated.
Slide south. You go like the windmill.
That's how you have to be thinking.
Remember to shake that down. You won't get
I
much.
was there probably like 3 months ago or something. It was cool. It was nice to vibe.
Shake me down, you'll.
I didn't want to walk. My mom flew in.
Amen.
I didn't want to go.
Last time I went to a Nova Southeast graduation, it took like 3 hours.
I know, like, I'm like, every weekend we're like having a different graduation, like, I'm going, oh my God.
Most of it up from Nova. Even right from Nova. Yeah. I was like, Nova.
Okay, we're gonna get started.
Me, him, RJ, Diego, Lewis, Grant, should do like a big party afterwards.
That's good. That's okay.
We should have a big party afterwards. You know me. It's gray, long gray, and has those no sharp. It has that little, I don't know what it's called, the blue thing that comes, that makes it look like you're a graduate.
The most important thing in the textbook, the most important item in the textbook, page 199, second paragraph. I have a green highlighter, a fluorescent highlighter, and blue ink stars, bells, whistles next to that. Page 199, second paragraph. And what it says, all you care about is getting your 3 votes and making money, period. Think about all the different ways you can accomplish the same objective. 199, second paragraph. Think about all the different ways you can accomplish the same objective.
What do they mean when it says instead of using zoning, you might use covenants and restrictions?
I don't know where it says that.
In the same paragraph.
Well, but let me get to that.
Sorry.
You know, I'm working down. All you care about is getting your 3 votes so you can get your project approved, so you can develop your project and make money. But you got to go through this thing called land use regulations. Is the camera back on?
Yes.
Now, you have to get your votes. You might change a definition. And if you followed the Boca Raton car dealership, or on 199 second paragraph, 199 second paragraph, we saw that definitions mattered. So instead of rezoning your property and having a big public meeting, maybe you just change the definition a little bit. You might amend the zoning map. Amending the zoning map is kind of like, as I said, you take your clothes off, you're screaming, yelling, here I am, everyone come out, what do you think? It's very public, the process. You're not hiding below the radar on that one. Changing a definition of the whole zoning code for the whole city, if you had the political juice to do that, no one knows that you're the one behind the change, per se. Okay? But if all of a sudden you're changing the zoning of your property from B1 to B2, which means you want more intensity, or from RM12 to RH30, that's a big thing. People are going to know, they're going to come out. But you might change the zoning map. You might add or subtract a permitted use. Let's assume right now you have a piece of property that's zone B1, and it does not allow hotels. Well, instead of you changing your property to allow hotels, change the B1 zoning code that has it now hotels as a permitted use. Or what it says here, you could also change something where it has discretionary approval. Okay, I'm not going to be able to do hotels as of right, but now we make it a conditional use. The point you need to realize here is the following. You care about your 3 votes, you care about making money. You have to hire a professional to help you figure it out. And a good professional is going to say there's multiple ways to get through the process. Okay? You try to do the path of least resistance. I would triple highlight everything there. In Chapter 18, rezonings. The first short little 2-sentence or 2-line paragraph. Rezonings include amendments to regulations which can change the map or the text. You need to know the difference between a zoning map. I showed you that on day 1 and on day 2. If I threw a zoning map at you in your face, it would hit you in the face, it would fall down. If I threw the zoning code at you, it's going to break your nose. It's the words, it's the big textbook, it's the phone book. It's the stuff you were supposed to look at for the Boca Raton car dealership. Okay? And then you go down to the second and third paragraph. A text change can add, delete, limit, or expand uses in certain districts. So if you don't like what the zoning code says, try to change it. It's not everything's being sneaky, not everything's being political. I was with the city of Fort Lauderdale yesterday, rewriting their zoning code in a committee thing. We're going to bring it to the commission. And there was like a Scribner's error that made no sense to limit something here, and it would be counterproductive. And I made my logical argument and said, yeah, you're right. We'll change that. Okay? Because not everyone knows when they draft the zoning code 3 or 4 decades ago everything that's going to happen. Okay, when we did the Fort Lauderdale zoning code back in the 70s, there were no satellite dishes. Now you have to allow them. Okay? Things change. Okay? Map amendment. That's the last paragraph in 203. That's where you don't like the map. But changing the map means you're taking it, it's like putting a bullseye on your back, because it's your property being singled out. So when in doubt, if the code doesn't let you do what you want and somehow you can get the whole zoning code changed for your benefit, that's traveling below the radar, like a stealth plane. But if you're forced to change the map, that means your map's being changed. Okay? And that means you put signs on your property and people come out. (206) up at the top, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 3 best words you're going to hear all day long. As of right. 206, up at the top, about 6 lines down, as of right. That means the government says you can do that apartment building as of right on your property. That means you don't do a public hearing. It's like playing Monopoly, pass, go right around here. If you have property and the zoning code lets you do something as of right, there's no public meeting, there's no elected officials, there's no 3 votes. It means you go right to the building department with your rolled up plans that your architect drew and you say, here, review them, give me a building permit. Because as of right, you can do that. Yes?
What about what about site plan approval? Do you need that?
It depends upon each jurisdiction. I'm trying to be concept. The words you want to hear are as of right. And we'll get to your comment in a moment. So, and I've used throughout this class, you got your property, as of right, you can do an apartment building, 6 stories up, and you have so much density that's allowed. A conditional use or special permit, which is the next chapter, chapter 19, basically says we might allow you to have that 6-story hotel that looks just like the 6-story apartment building, but it's not as of right. We want you to process a site plan. We want you to come in because we want to see where the dumpster's going to go. We want to see where the lighting's going to be. We want to see where the restaurant's going to relate because it's going to have greater impacts. We're not saying no to the hotel there. We're just saying it's not as of right. It's a conditional use. Okay, and if any of you have kids, or any of you remember when you were kids, you know, your parents might say, okay, I'm going to let you go out this weekend as a concept, but I got to approve where you're going, who you're going with, and when you're coming home. You know, as opposed to as of right is, hey, it's your weekend, you do what you want as long as you're back Sunday night by midnight. I don't know parents that do that, but my point is there's conditions to it. And the conditions are not this government's being difficult. They're saying we don't want you to be adverse to your neighbors. So page 19 talks about, I'm sorry, chapter 19 on 209 deals about conditional uses. 210 at the bottom, count up from the bottom, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have it in quotes. Compatibility with surrounding properties in the neighborhood. Why do you need to be nice to government bureaucrats that make less money than you and don't drive the BMW? Because they're the ones who are going to decide whether your project is compatible with surrounding properties in the neighborhood. Okay? It's that subjective standard. A zoning code that says 12 stories, we can all count 12 stories. A zoning code that says you gotta have 2 parking spots per unit, we can count parking spots. That's pretty objective. But when the zoning code says your building so has to be compatible with the neighborhood, that's giving government the chance to say, you know what? Yeah, you might be allowed to go up to 12 stories, but we don't think 12 is right here. We think 8's more appropriate. Well, the difference between 8 and 12 is whether you drive a BMW or a Bentley. You'll be a lot happier driving the Bentley. So you might fight for that, or you might say, you know what? If everyone's saying no, 12 really doesn't work here, they're probably correct. You gotta make a decision. You wanna fight that? You're not gonna do very good before a judge arguing over 8 versus 12, and the government's saying it's not compatible. Now, if they try to say, we want you to do a single-family house, and other things are 8, 10, then you might win. The point is, that's the standard that they use.
Professor,
Yes?
have you ever had a strategy like within litigation, if you don't get approved by a certain point, you pretty much just go with the as of right?
Well, no, because I look at it like this. When I'm litigating, I'm going for the jugular, I'm going all in.
Right.
The point is, I usually don't go into litigation. But once you're in, it's kind of hard. But the challenge is this. Once you litigate, I guess you can stop the litigation and you can go back to as of right, but then you got to start the whole process over again. You might have to get architects to draw plans. You might still have to do a site plan. But litigation should be the last resort. But look at 211. Up at the top, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of you have a mother, right? And I guarantee you that when you were born, your mother thought you were the cutest baby in the world. I've seen some of you a little bit later in life. But mom still thinks it was the most cutest baby in the world, right? Well, have you ever seen a mom say, yeah, this is my kid, it's ugly? No. We all have our definition of what's cute. We all have our definition of what's compatible. Everyone has his or her own idea of what's compatible. And a judge is not going to substitute his or her opinion for the City of Fort Lauderdale Planning Department. You got to work with these people early on. You don't want to be going in there arguing this. Let me tell you what I love to do. Page 211, second full paragraph, starts with the word the special permit. Line 2 and 3. Conditions imposed on the permit. The zoning code allows up to 12 stories. Around me are a bunch of 8-story buildings, maybe there's one 10-story building. But the code allows up to 12. I want to make as much money as possible, so I do a site plan with 12. And staff comes back, says not compatible. Well, then I go to staff and say, okay, how about this? I really want the density. How about I agree to these conditions? I'll do a platform that comes up 3 levels.